use these little kind of mini devotionals on Sundays, at least for the time being, to encourage those that are going through some difficult times and walking through these times of uncertainty with us. Well, let's get going. We're going to have some opportunity in a bit to kind of connect and share some thoughts in a little bit. But it's just kind of amazing how much has changed in the last week. And all that we would have considered normal even a week and a half ago seems to be kind of this distant memory in this as this kind of temporary normal sets in. And this transition, as necessary as it is to help kind of stem this tide of the spread of this virus, and as we've heard, flatten the curve, it's been a tough time in so many. It's been difficult to really put much of our regular lives on hold and adjust the way we've done things for years. And it's a little bit unsettling knowing that we're going to probably be doing this for the foreseeable future. And really, one of the biggest changes that we've seen as a church family has been that the way that we connect as the family of God. And never before, at least in our part of the world, have we ever, as churches, been forced to or been faced with the prospect of going possibly weeks, if not months, without the ability or even the permission of our government to physically meet together. And what this means, at least for the time being, is that we're going to have to find new ways of doing things. And we're going to have to change some things that have been foundational for the church and find new ways of doing them. Things like worship, biblical instruction, prayer, and even fellowship. I want to share a little bit of a story. On the Friday evening, before the public gatherings were kind of banned by our government, and to 250 or less, and I believe now it's even 50 or more aren't allowed to meet. Christy and I and a few other unnamed from the KBC family were able to head down to Toronto, and we were able to see the For King and Country concert. And one of their songs, which they shared, and which is also part of their current album, is a song called Burn the Ships. And the song is based on the story of Captain Hernan Cortez, who was a Spanish conquistador who led an expedition of 11 ships to the New World in 1519. And he landed in Veracruz, Mexico. And upon arriving, he sensed that his crews and those part of the ships, those that were meant to join him in this new exploration of this new world, seemed to have a great hesitancy that their mission wasn't maybe as exciting, or they bought into it as much as they had thought, or as Captain Cortez had hoped for. And they said they seemed very hesitant about moving away from the lifeline of the harbor and the lifeline of their ships. And so one morning, Cortez called out all the sailors onto the shore, and once everyone had gathered, he gave the order to burn the ships. Cortez understood that as long as their lifeline to home, represented by these ships, was intact, they would never move forward with their mission. And for us as a church, burning the ships represents giving way to parts of our church life that, for at least the foreseeable future, are no longer practical options, like the ability of having services and running ministries like we have for years. And KBC, this is it's natural and it's appropriate to feel saddened by this. I've been doing a lot of reading about how churches and especially pastors are talking about doing church online for the foreseeable future. And I've been kind of surprised that not a lot of pastors have really talked about really the sense of loss that we as the church should feel. The fact that we can't meet together should be something that bothers us. It should be something that leaves a hole in us, something that we should be missing. And that's natural and appropriate. And I hope that we all feel a bit of a loss during this time. But we also need to understand that we need to continue moving ahead as the Church of God is, as his hands and feet in this world. And I'm looking forward to the day and praying for the day, hopefully very soon, where we'll have the freedom restored to us of meeting together. But until that time comes, we as a church are going to have to do things a bit differently. So instead of just sitting here and pouting about it and just longing for the days that we're used to return, we need to really step up as a church, and we need to look at new ways of being the church to one another and being the church to the world around us, especially during this worldwide health crisis. So during this time, for however long it might take, we need to be okay with setting aside our regular ways of doing church for new and different ways. We need to, in a way, burn the ships. What that means is we need to rely on different ways to be the church and to do those things that God has instructed us to do and to be to one another, those things that are foundational to how he has designed his family. So what I want to do is I want to try something a little bit different this morning. And for the next few minutes, I want to list off a number of the one another statements that are contained throughout the New Testament. We went through these as a church probably a year and a bit ago. And what they are, they're statements that are contained throughout the New Testament, some by Jesus, some by Paul and the other authors of the various letters to the church. And they are statements that really highlight for us what it means to interact with one another, what it means to be in relationship with one another, what it means and how we're supposed to treat one another. So what I want to do is I'm going to begin listing off these statements. I've kind of compiled a number of them into about 10. And what I want to do is as I read the statement and give just a little bit of, just talk a little bit about it, I want to give you opportunities to kind of message one another and be part of this conversation about in our current world, in our current situations where we're basically being told to keep contact or physical contact with one another to a minimum, where we're even asked to work from home and try to stay confined to our family units as much as possible. The question I want to ask is, how do we as a church fulfill these kind of one another statements during this time? So I'm going to read them and then would love for you to kind of comment and just join in some conversation with one another to discuss what are some maybe practical ways or ways that you've seen even in your circles over the last week or so this taking place. And feel free, this is your opportunity to interrupt the preacher. So I'm hoping it, and let's just jump into it. The first one, which is actually mentioned 15 times throughout the New Testament, is the command or the mandate to love one another. And so the question is, how do we practically love one another when we're unable to meet together? What are some of those ways that we can be connected and that we can let others in, the KBC family know, other believers know, our family, our friends know that we love them? So here's your opportunity. Why don't we just kind of share some thoughts of practical ways that in our situation we can demonstrate love for one another in this crisis. So I'll be quiet and feel free to share some thoughts here, and I'll try to kind of highlight them as they come up. And thanks, Nick, for just making that statement that really as families, if any of you are in need, if any of you are going through difficult times, need help, whether practically or just time to prayer, please make sure that you reach out to the elders. And we're going to be monitoring the phone and monitoring the emails, and we would love to be able just to connect with you. So if you have a need, please let us know. And then Christy says we need to be on the phones. We need to be calling one another, connecting one another. It'd be great to have lists of those if you're involved in a small group or involved in a Bible study or are part of Legacy or something, just to have those lists of people that we can be calling with and just praying with and just making sure everybody's okay. Yeah, texting and messaging, great opportunities, praying for one another. Thanks, Femi. I think Femi's just finished up his 2-week quarantine a week ago, and I know he's looking forward to playing drums for us. We haven't seen him in a while. He was over in South Korea on work, and it was great to see him back, and he was all ready to go, and then we ended up canceling the service. I'm so sorry, Femi. Nick, reach out virtually, but keep social distancing. Yeah, definitely. Well, I like that. Leslie says, being blessed with grocery deliveries during our isolation. Anybody can always drop groceries off at our house. I love to eat. Just as we're sharing some things, just a couple of things to be praying for is the Sinclairs who have been kind of trapped overseas for the last little bit are actually have secured some plane rides on a fairly roundabout route to get back to Canada. So I believe that they're leaving today. So we just need to be in prayer for them as they kind of make a number of connections just to get home. And it's great to have, I don't see them on here, but it's great to have Liz and Sam back with us, and some great news. Sam got his residency card for Canada, so he no longer has to head back to England every 3 months, but he's here and they're looking forward to getting set. So that's just a real answer to prayer. I know it's been a long journey for them. Yeah, some other things is using Skype or different kind of online group apps to be able to connect face to face. Carolyn agrees, sidewalk messages and to talk to neighbors. I know we've seen a lot of that where you kind of got to yell. There's been some cool videos coming out, especially in Europe, where entire communities have been talking and singing and doing exercise programs together on balconies. And Janet, thanks for sharing that there's also been a call for Christians to pray between noon and 1 in their time zones for our leader and healthcare workers. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, but we definitely need to be praying for guidance for our government officials and health officials, that they help us navigate this, but also for those on the front line. I know we have a number, even in our church, that are frontline healthcare workers, and we need to be praying for them as well. So let's get into the second one there. We can keep the conversation going, but thanks to everybody for participating in this. The second one kind of fits into the first one, this idea of encouraging one another. And probably a lot of what we've just said will fit the bill there as well, that we can encourage one another, certainly through our words and through praying. And again, it comes back to really that presence with one another. Peter, I love it, man. Say hello to strangers when you're out in your daily exercise walk. Oh, and our son Justin wants to say thank you for this, to hear the messages each week. Like he doesn't listen to his dad talk enough. I want to jump into the third one here. And it's the command, or the really a statement to bear with one another, to help carry one another's burdens. And just wondering what are some practical ways that we can kind of bear the burdens for one another, especially in this time where really isolation has created a whole bunch of new concerns and new situations and things that we have to kind of wrestle through and wrestle with that aren't a part of regular life. Hey, good morning, Phil. So let's spend a few minutes and just kind of comment on some of those ways that we can bear one another's burdens. And again, we'll see through this whole thing that prayer is certainly, it's a continuation right through everything, that we need to be bringing everything to prayer. And we need to be on our hands and knees, probably even more than maybe we would usually be because of the situation for our world. I think someone up earlier had talked about checking in with neighbors, or even the practical nature of, for those that might be a higher risk to catch this virus, would be to even offer to do to pick up groceries for them, to be able to pick those up, and even if you did a kind of a porch drop off, but to check in on those that aren't able to get out and make sure that they have their food and the necessities that they need is a great idea. Nick, man, prayer. Touch base with others in the family of Christ and pray with them. I love that. It's not even just praying for them, but it's praying with them. And Laura, thanks a lot. It's even the idea of some people might just not even know the options that are available to them for things like grocery pickup, medication pickup. And sometimes it's just helping others know some of those resources that are available to them. Lisa, listening, again, Nancy, phone calls, prayer, be on the phone. Reach out to people who you might not usually reach out to. Thanks, Ruth Ann, for sharing that. Also, check out, I believe it's on our Facebook page, but Ruth Ann this week shared a great resources for kids that they've given, I believe it's Focus on the Family, has given 4 weeks free of Odyssey, of their Odyssey Club. So there's about 900 different Odyssey episodes. If your kid loves Adventures in Odyssey, this is, they get 4 weeks free for that. That should keep them busy, because I think to go through 900 episodes in 4 weeks, that's about 30 episodes a day. So if you want to lose your kids for a few hours, stick on Odyssey, let them go. They're going to get great biblical messages, and they'll be well entertained for a few hours. Let's jump on to the next one. This has kind of been the theme right through, but this idea of praying for one another. And what I want to talk about this is just how can we be praying for one another? And I've listed a couple, and feel free to jot in some other ones that might come to mind, but certainly pray for strength and health. I hope and pray that most of you, if not all of our KBC family to this point, are healthy and haven't had to face this virus yet. But the chances are in the coming days and weeks, some of us will, and we just want to pray that we remain strong and healthy, and be able to beat off this virus if we happen to get it. Peace is another one that our world is kind of in a bit of a standstill. And I could even notice I ran into Costco yesterday. Don't worry, I kept my 6-foot distance, but just to see kind of the down faces on people. I've never seen Costco as quiet and, quite honestly, as organized as it was yesterday, but people just are scared. There's a lack of peace. There's a real uncertainty. And, we as a church, where we understand that Jesus is in control of this, that God's still in control of everything that's going on. And we don't need to fear tomorrow. And really what I would do is I would encourage us this is a great opportunity to be able to share that peace with those that are around us, to share the gospel with them. Amy, thank you. Amy says to remember to pray for those that live alone. And loneliness is a huge thing going on right now. Pray for our leaders and our countries for wisdom. Again, we can pray for our frontline health workers, those in the healthcare system that are facing this sickness kind of head on every day. And we just need to be praying for not only their health and that they wouldn't get this virus, but also just for strength, as I know most healthcare workers are taking on a lot more hours than they would usually be doing. And so we just need to be praying for our healthcare workers, that they don't get run down and that they still have the ability of providing the care that is so desperately needed. Again, we can be praying for opportunity to share the gospel. There's probably not been a time like this that's going to potentially last as long as what they're anticipating this whole virus might last, that people are open to the gospel, that they're thinking about their own mortality, that they're thinking about life just in general. And I would just encourage you to be able to share the gospel with those. And also, Leslie says praying for those that are losing their jobs. And we know as people get laid off and as businesses begin to ramp down and shut down, that we need to be praying for those that are maybe losing hours or losing their jobs. Thanks, Carol. And Carol would understand this for kind of right on the front lines, but I pray that the panic will subside. I would encourage you, almost don't read as many social media posts as probably we're inclined to do. Because basically every story has to do with the coronavirus, and there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so I would just encourage you to really choose your sources carefully. And we just need to pray that the panic would subside a bit, and that we wouldn't be fearful. I just want to read this passage that Mike, one of our elders, posted out of Jeremiah 17. But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. Thanks, Mike, for sharing that. I want to get on to the next one there, and just thank you for everyone's input on this. Is a great format for doing this one. Next one I jot down was greet each other with a holy kiss. Oh, wait, hold on a second. That one stuck in, I think. That one stuck in. Yeah, we better will put that one on hold. Maybe we'll implement that when we get back to church. But for now, social distancing and everything, we'll just put that greet one another with a holy kiss on hold. And let's bump on to the next one here. Build, spur one another on. How can we be a cheerleader for others? So what do you think? How can we cheer one another on? Both in our faith, but also in this time of encouragement. So what are your thoughts? How do we build one another or spur one another on to do good deeds, to be a cheerleader for one another? Again, I think the prayer fits into this, is just being able to have someone else or have others know that they're praying for you, and that they're thinking of you. Hopefully will help spur one another's on. We're going to try to use these devotions and try to create some other opportunities just for information, so that we can just encourage you during kind of the downtime, so that we don't just waste time watching binge watching TV, but that we can use this time to really grow in our spiritual walk. Send encouraging verses. Thanks a lot, Amy, for that. Kind of practicing putting others before ourselves. Thanks, Thomas, for sharing, buddy. Okay, well, a couple more, and then we're almost done here. The other one I put here is live in harmony with one another. We've never been through this before. We need to be showing each other a lot of grace, especially for those trying to lead our world through this whole scenario, but also really in leading KBC through this. And I've read a couple of things from pastors which I totally agree that when I took schooling, I never had a class on how to lead a church through a pandemic. So just this idea of living in harmony with one another. And just the thing I thought a lot about is just grace. Showing each other a lot of grace, because let's face it, we're navigating unseen waters, and we're often not sure. Everybody's gonna make some missteps, and so we just need to really show a lot of grace. But any other ideas of how we can live in harmony with one another? See some great responses still coming out of the spurring one another and just sharing. We've got another one that we have, Right Now Media. I know Phil loves Christian movies, and Right Now Media is a great resource. It's got, I think it's like 30,000 different Bible studies and mini movies and conference sessions. And so if you want to if you don't have access to Right Now Media and you'd like it, all you need to do is send me your email, whoever you are, just send me your email. You can send it to mark@kingbiblechurch.com. Here, I'll throw that in the comments just so you know. Can't talk and type at the same time. So I think that came up. Yeah, so if you want to into Right Now Media and get free access to that, just send me your email at mark@kingbiblechurch.com, and I'll get you set up for that. You'll get an invitation email. Just set up your username. It comes under the church, so there's no price or cost to that. Lisa, great time to practice more patience with each other. Hopefully you're not talking about your boss. Hold back on sassy comments. Yes, you're certainly talking about your boss. But having certain times to do family activities as well as do separate things. Some great ideas there. The last kind of two, instruct one another. And the question I put here is, how can you still be involved in Bible studies with one another? And I would say, if you currently got a Bible study group that you're involved in, maybe talk to your leaders and those in your group just about ways that you can still be connecting. If you have videos or studies that you're watching online, then that would be a great opportunity to keep doing that. And you can set up Skype calls. I think Zoom will also do it. But there's some options that you can set up face-to-face video chats to connect, or do that over email or phone. We're also going to, as a church, as we kind of come across some things that we think might be of value to you, we'll make sure that we post those on Facebook. And so just make sure that you like the King Bible Church Facebook page. And we'll try to keep that updated with some good resources that you can use to keep growing. We're going to be doing something every Sunday morning You can be praying for the leaders, the staff, and the elders are going to be meeting on Tuesday night to basically look at options that we have as a church to address some of these needs if this pandemic is a longer term, lasts a little bit longer than what we thought it was going to, or certainly past the initial 2 or 3 weeks that I know we were hoping it was going to last. So if this is something long term, we're going to be coming up with some ideas of just how we can make sure that we can connect as a community, even virtually during this time. And I know Ruth Ann has talked about trying to find some ways of connecting with kids. So just keep up to date, and you'll see some things rolling out in the next week of ways to do this. And then the last one here is serving one another. And this really encompasses kind of everything we've just talked about, that we really need to take on the attitude of a servant. And that means that we need to get into this habit, especially during this time, that hopefully it lasts long past this, to put others before ourselves, to serve one another, to really care for one another, to go out of our ways of helping those that might be in difficult situations, or there's things that they just might not be able to do that we can do. We need to jump in there and do all we can to help meet those needs of those around us. And I know we've probably all heard of some great stories of how that's happened. So those are kind of some of the one another statements really that describe what the church is and describe how we're to relate to one another. And the great thing is all those one another's, it doesn't mean that we have to do it the way we've always done it. Just because we can't meet physically together as a church on Sunday mornings doesn't mean that we can't continue to fulfill what it means to be the church. And remember, the church is not a building. The church is the people of God. And that's what we are. And though we don't have the access to our building right now, we do have access to one another, and we can still be the church even in these difficult times and these times of uncertainty. I just want to encourage you to make sure that you do all you can to connect with one another, to pray with one another, to support, to love one another, to spur one another on in faith, to encourage one another to share the gospel. And let's put some of these practical aspects that we've talked about this morning really into place. And I want to give you just one example. And this was something that kind of blew me away. And kind of a funny story. Last week was the first time I've really ever done a Facebook Live post. And we kind of threw it together last minute because everything just broke so quickly over about 48 hours last weekend when we figured out that we weren't able to meet together as a church on Sunday. So we kind of put this together, and I kind of laughed because as I was doing it, I've now figured out the comment section. But I remember doing kind of our devotion last week, and I only saw about 4 or 5 people that had jumped in. And so I was thinking we were doing this whole thing for a few, and I'm glad for those that joined in. But then when I came in, Christy came up, and we realized that there were a lot more people than what I had saw. And so over kind of the week I'll give you some stats as to how this Facebook Live event went last week. And the reason we want to share and like this is that we actually have had over 400 different users watch at least a portion of the video that was posted last week. And that, to put that kind of in perspective, that's over 4 times what we as a church would have on a regular Sunday morning attendance. We're usually about 110 to 120 on a Sunday morning. And we reached 400 different users, but I know that a number of those users had their families watching, and I think the Bowdens were in the States, and I think there was 23 of them watching. So it's amazing that even when all this stuff is happening and when all this uncertainty and we feel kind of robbed because we can't meet together, is really even for our church and for the message to go out, that we're being able to connect with more people than we might on a Sunday. So that's just a kind of hopefully a note of encouragement that we can still be incredibly effective as the church, even though we can't necessarily meet for regular services and programs. And KBC, our world is looking to find real hope. They're looking for encouragement during these times of uncertainty. And so let's make sure, and kind of encouragement, let's make sure that we use all the means that we have at our disposal to show those around us that they can find hope in Jesus Christ. And if you're new to KBC and maybe you've just jumped on this either live as we're doing it, or you're one of the number that will, have this feed come across your Facebook stream later on in the week. And if you have some questions, you feel free to drop us a direct message, or you can email me again at mark@kingbiblechurch.com, and we'll try to answer those questions that you have. But thanks so much, everyone, for kind of joining. Oh, there's Elizabeth there. Hey, Elizabeth and Sam. We announced earlier on that we're excited that Sam got his residency status for Canada, and that you guys are sticking around. So I'm glad that you guys made it back safe from England. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of close this time in a word of prayer. And again, just praying for some of the things that we've been talking about. And we'll just kind of close this off. So just would you join me as we pray? Just Father, we just thank you again for technology, and thank you for just the ability we have of still gathering together and still connecting with one another. Even though not physically, we can do it virtually. And just thank you for the technology that allows us to do that. And Father, we want to continue to pray for the families at KBC and the families that will be watching this stream. We just pray for continued health and safety during this time that the virus seems to be continually spreading. And just pray, Lord, that you would just allow us to do our part in flattening the curve. And Lord, we pray that if some of us do end up getting it, we just pray that you would help us to be able to navigate and have the strength just to be able to work through it really quickly. Pray for the healthcare workers, those that are on the front lines. We just pray that you would, again, keep them healthy and safe as they interact with those that are sick and ailing. And we think of those even in our own church that are healthcare workers, and just pray, Lord, that you would keep them safe and be with their families, as I know they are going to spend a lot more time at work than they might usually do. I pray for our government and our healthcare officials, and just as they navigate this pandemic and as they make decisions, Lord, I pray that we would honor those decisions, that we wouldn't fight, and that we would that you would just use them and give them wisdom as they try to determine the appropriate paths to keep us safe and healthy, and to try to eradicate this disease as quickly as possible. And just Lord, help us to show them that respect and honor, and Lord, that you just allow us to have patience with them. Pray for our church. This is a different time, and pray, Lord, that even though we can't meet, Lord, that we would even more so be connected with one another through the various means that we have. I pray for our leaders as we meet this Tuesday, and just how to navigate some of the upcoming days, and just pray that you grant them wisdom. Pray, Lord, that you would help us in practical means with stuff like finances. And I know as people are maybe losing jobs or getting laid off or having less hours, Lord, that's going to impact offerings at the church. And we trust that you will allow us to make the right decisions so that we can weather this storm. And Lord, just pray that those that are able to be faithful in giving can continue to do that. And just pray for our communities, Lord, that as we interact even from a distance with those around us, Lord, that we would be able to demonstrate hope, and that we'd be able to show and even have those opportunities to have those conversations with people, to share about Jesus Christ and to share about the good news of the gospel and the hope that we can have in Jesus. And so, Father, just again, help us to navigate this time. Help us as families to remain healthy and to do our part. But we trust that even in these times of uncertainty, Lord, that you will do amazing things and that your church will begin to, or continue just to expand as we share the love of Christ with those in our world that are in desperate need. And so, Father, just journey with us, guide us, and help us to remain effective for you even in this seemingly downtime. And help us to be okay with, as we said, burn the ships and put those things that maybe we're clinging to for security aside, so that you can do something new in us for this time. And we just ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And it's great to be with you. And feel free to kind of share this post and continue to share it. And hey, Amanda, this is one of our neighbors. Amanda, how you doing? Glad you joined us. And we're just looking for opportunities to get the word out. And I just would ask that you be an encouragement to those around you, whether it be church family, neighbors. We want to kind of do our part, and we want to help those that are struggling, to be able to serve them, to be able to love them, be able to do those practical things that we as a church can do our part in just really being a witness for Christ and really doing our part to serve one another. So thanks for joining us, and we certainly look for stuff on the Facebook page for items that you might enjoy or be able to participate in. And we'll certainly give you an update after our leadership meeting on Tuesday of just some things that we're going to be doing. And at the very least, we will hopefully see everyone back again next week at 11 a.m. for part 3 of our Sunday devotionals from the Knoll House. So God bless, take care, stay safe, and we will talk to you all real soon. Love you guys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.